Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to the Southeastern Conference call. At this time, your telephone lines are in a listen-only mode. Later, there is an opportunity for questions and answers with instructions given at that time. If you should require assistance during the conference call, please press star, then 0, and a specialist will assist you offline. And as a reminder, your conference call today is being recorded. I'll now turn the conference call over to your host, SEC Director of Communications, Chuck Dunlap. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to SEC Championship Game Week. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. We will begin our media activities with the head coach's teleconference here in just a couple of moments. This will be the final SEC Championship game, which pits the winners of the Eastern and Western Division. Both teams are undefeated in SEC play, and that is only the second time in the championship game's history that has occurred, the other being 2009 when Florida and Alabama both played. We'll begin today's call with the Eastern Division champions, Georgia Bulldogs, and head coach Kirby Smart. I believe we have Coach Smart on the line. So, Coach, if you could, while we wait on questions, and again, to get in queue to ask a question, media, please press 10 on your phone line. But Coach Smart, if you wouldn't mind giving your thoughts on the regular season and your team as you begin the process of preparing for the SEC Championship game in Atlanta against Alabama.
Yeah, we wrapped up the regular season last night, in Atlanta against Georgia Tech, and incredible atmosphere there at night and a very passionate rivalry game. And that's what college football is all about. I think everybody across the country, or at least the Southeast, ends on that rivalry week, and it's usually a lot of emotion spent in those kind of games. And that's the tough thing about, our conference and college football. You got to bounce right back and get ready to go play in a championship game. But it's an opportunity that was earned by our team in this program, and I know our players are certainly excited for the opportunity. I tell them all the time that it's one of the best venues, best atmospheres in all of sports, and I've been very fortunate to be a part of it a lot of times, and I know our guys are excited about the opportunity, and we'll have their full attention towards preparing for Alabama this week.
For questions, press 10, and we'll begin with Nick Alvarez of AL.com.
The challenges of prepping for a player like Dallas Turner, and how do you mimic that or kind of prepare for that in practice during the week?
I don't know if I caught the whole question. It sounded like you were asking about preparation for Dallas and how. Yeah,
and how do you try to recreate that kind of with during the week with either designating a player to kind of mimic him, or how do you kind of just game prep for that?
Well, you put a plan together. The best thing you can do is not put yourself in bad down and distance situations to try to stay ahead of the sticks. You got to stay on schedule and stay ahead of the sticks because he's got speed, talent, ability. He's improved so much. Throughout his career, we've seen him grow and study under Will, and he's gotten bigger to me, and is much more impactful on the run game, every down player, and still elite in the pass rush side of things. But you can't really mimic that. You do the best you can to simulate it, and you work technique, and you put game plan together. But at the end of the day, you got to have skilled people that can block. Those kind of guys are hard to block.
Next, we'll go to Mike Griffith of AJC Dog Nation.
You and Nick Saban obviously have met a couple times in this game, and you coached with Coach Saban in that 2009 game. What about it when you go up against Coach Saban? What is that like to go up against someone that you worked with and know so much about and know so much about you?
It seems like you go against people you work with more often. I guess the older you get, I don't know, maybe the longer you've been here, but this is like, not the first person that you've worked with that you go against. So it's one of those deals. It's happening more often as you go across, or maybe a coordinator like last night, or somebody that used to be on your staff. It happens with more regularity as you get older and you've coached with more people. But I can't say enough about the tremendous respect I have for him, the job he's done, how long he's done it. People don't really understand how hard it is to be consistently really good, consistently great, and he's accomplished that at the highest level to me, because our conference is certainly really tough and hard, and he's done it for every year he's been there, besides maybe the first. I mean, he's had really successful seasons, so he's really a good leader. He's good at motivating, and I think he's kind of evolved with the times in the way he goes about things.
Next, we'll go to Mark Schlabach of ESPN.
Hey, Kurt. Any update on Brock, Ladd, Ra, or Josh Ratledge?
Who was the last one?
Guard Ratledge.
Ratledge, Tate Ratledge.
Yeah, Tate Ratledge.
As far as last night, Brock was probably the closest to being able to go of those guys, and just didn't feel as good as he had. He was a little sore, and we wanted to be able to use him situationally or see what he could do if he felt comfortable with it, and just didn't think that he could go. I mean, it's nothing about who we're playing or anything else. He's got to be able to go compete at the high level and be able to feel good about what he's doing, and we didn't feel that he had that last night. And Tate, he may have could have played, but he was not 100%, and we're hopeful to get him back. But as far as the other guys go, it's going to be day to day. I mean, we just don't know anything, and we certainly don't know any more today because we haven't done anything.
Thank you.
Next is David Pascal, the Chattanooga Times Free Press.
Hey, Kirby, has this game, changed to you, the SEC Championship game, from when you were a player, when you first participated in it? I didn't know. I know you spoke this spring about, with the 12-team playoff, you've got concerns about teams that may not even get to play in a conference championship game. I was just curious if you view this exactly the same as you once did, or do you view it kind of as another rung in the ladder of where you ultimately want to go?
Not real understanding. I'm not understanding exactly what you're asking.
I guess I'm asking, do you worry about the importance of this game, compared to as we move forward in a 12-team playoff? Do you think that conference championships will be as important moving forward?
I don't know that for other conferences. It's hard for me to answer. I would think that other conferences will have conference championship games that will impact the 12-team playoff in terms of if a team wins, they jump into the 12. If a team loses, they fall out of the 12. Certainly, if you look over the history of the SEC, it might not impact the 12. It might impact, who has to play when, who gets buys, and you're playing for a bye, you're playing for a home game, you're playing to get in, you're playing to get knocked out. But none of all that matters to me as much as an SEC championship does. And I think that's lost on everybody. Nobody cares. All they want to know is, who's the champion of the NCAA and the national champion, and not, who's the conference champion. And maybe that's lessened in value to the outside world. It hasn't lessened in value to the coaching world or the people, the men in our room, the players, because we had a team meeting not too long ago, and I said, we've won as many SEC championships, as we have national championships around here. So they're hard to win, and you better appreciate them, and they're really hard to do. So I have an appreciation for winning a conference championship, and it's hard.
I want to ask you real just quick about Ladd as well. Obviously, he's played in half-year games this year. Being the competitor he is, how has he handled just a year that he's, that's had a lot of ups and downs?
Frustrated. I think he gets frustrated with it, but a lot of it's beyond his control. And He's done everything he can from a rehab standpoint to get back, and he's filled his role as a leader and an energy guy on the sideline and a supporter of the other guys. Is all you can ask him to do, and he was right there last night pulling and supporting everybody.
Thank you.
Next we'll go to John Senior of the Associated Press.
Hey, Kirby. Jalen Milroe and Carson Beck have been kind of in the same boat, having to replace, star quarterbacks for teams that had national championship aspirations. Kind of a two-parter. How has Carson handled that from the start of that to now? And what have you seen from Jalen Milroe's progression from early in the season if you've gotten that deep into film?
Well, I mean, we're just starting on those guys. I've forgotten to watch 2 games, so that's hard to answer on Milroe because I haven't watched a lot of the earlier stuff. We didn't get to cross over with them a whole lot in the regular season, so I hadn't seen them, especially offensively, as much. When you talk about Carson and his growth, I think he gained more confidence through playing time and being in some tough contests, going on the road, playing in hostile places. He's grown up and gotten better, and excited to see where he can go.
Next we'll go to Mike Rodak of 24/7 Sports.
Told Nick Saban after the national title game a couple years ago that was the best coaching job that he had done. And obviously now, with all the questions that surrounded Alabama in September, for them to get to where they are now from afar, what can you say about the coaching job that Nick has done this year?
Yeah, tremendous job. I mean, he year in year out does, and he, like I said, he does it with different formats of teams. Just like us, every team has a different identity. But this one for him, I mean, without seeing much more than 2 games, it's a different identity than previous years. They certainly have talented players. They got talented players all over the place on defensive and offensive lines. Their line of scrimmages are big and physical, which that always, is an identity of an Alabama team. You know that. But this one has been very unique. They play really hard. They play well together. They respond for each other. They've been in some tight ball games and made some big time comeback games.
Next we'll go to Chip Towers of the AJC.
Yeah, Kirby, you talk about how much you always very consistent talking about how much you love this game, the importance of the game and everything else. Obviously, in your young coaching career, you've accomplished just about everything. Pretty much everything. But you have not, beaten Alabama and Coach Saban in this game. To say that, Georgia is the best in the SEC. Is that a motivation for you?
Not really. I mean, the motivation for me is for our players and to get better throughout the year. I mean, I don't look at it as who we play. I mean, I look at it as, we don't control who goes into that game we play. We had a chance to beat LSU and didn't. Then we had a chance to beat LSU and we did. We had a chance to beat Auburn, and we did. We've had chances to beat Alabama, and we haven't. I mean, when you're playing in this game, you're playing a really good team. You're going to play really good teams as you go along. But it's not a extra motivating factor for me. I mean, I'm not looking for, check marks or checking boxes or certain tick marks to try to get on your belt. That's not what I got in this for. For me, it's for giving our kids a chance to do something special and represent this university, and that's what we want to go do. Is we want to go play our best.
Thanks, Coach.
Next is Charlie Potter of Bama Online.
Team from a guy like Jermaine Burton, and how much of a threat has he become for Alabama?
I'm sorry, I'm not catching the beginning of these questions. I feel like I'm catching halfway through them. I didn't hear the beginning of that one.
Just the improvement you've seen from a guy like Jermaine Burton, and how much of a threat has he become?
Well, I just don't know if I've seen enough tape to fairly answer that question. We catch some of their games when we're done playing, but I hadn't watched enough tape. I know he was a really good player when he was here. So to be 2 years removed from that and the impact he had, in that national championship game against Alabama, to have 2 years under his belt and grow as a player, we know how talented he is. So certainly has a lot of ability.
Next is Joe Menzer of ESPN and the SEC Network.
Hey, Coach. What are one or two things that you learned real early on when Coach Saban first hired you that you still implement today? And could you have imagined back then that the two of you would go on to become such iconic SEC coaches?
No, I couldn't have thought of that then because I was just I'd never been a full-time Division I coach. I'm talking about an assistant coach then. So never would have fathomed that it would have come this far during those days when I first got hired at LSU. That was a long time ago, 2004 maybe. Seems like ages ago. What was the other part of the question?
What are one or two things that you learned from him real early on there at LSU or early on in your career with him that you still implement today?
Just attention to detail and, the ability to be locked in on the task at hand. Never before has our sport or this level of college football required such multitasking. 1 minute you're working on special teams, and the next minute you're, chasing guys, dealing with the portal or dealing with transfers or NIL. So it's, his ability to compartmentalize and work on the task at hand was always incredible to me, and it's, something that I try to do. I don't know that I do it as well as he does when it comes to being able to focus on the task at hand, not get distracted on the little things.
Thank you.
We have a follow-up from Mike Griffiths.
Kirby, a lot of Georgia players scattered around the FBS ranks now. I think I counted 16 in the two deep, 11 starters. A couple at Alabama that you're facing. What of that playing against former players and just kind of your general thoughts about facing guys that you kind of helped develop?
Yeah, I think the first thing you look for is, is it a better opportunity for them? And in each one of those cases, on a case-by-case basis, they have to determine that, not us. The guys that helped us win games, whether it was last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they're somewhere else, I want them to do well. I don't have wish negative upon anybody. I certainly want Georgia to do well, and they were part of building something. And if they were part of that, then more power to them. But when we play against them, we're going to do all we can to make sure that we come out on top. But it's not a personal thing by any means. It's the nature of the beast. The NFL, that happens all the time, right? So people get traded, people have free agency, and in college they make choices and decisions that fit what they need to do or what they think they need to do for their career. So we don't look at it as a negative. We had two guys last week, that we played against that were here and did great things for us.
I think we also have a follow-up from Joe Menzer.
Coach, it seems like the perception kind of as this year's gone was that Coach Saban had mellowed a little bit. Are you buying that? He seemed to be pretty fired up yesterday, both when they got the sack there at the end and then pulled the game out at the end.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not over there. I don't have eyes and ears on that program to be able to answer that. I don't. It's a hard one for me.
Hard for me to believe it myself, but thank you.
That's going to be all, Coach. Thank you for your time, and look forward to a great week.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
We'll pause for just a moment or two, and we'll continue with Alabama and Nick Saban in just a moment. like we have Coach Saban in the queue now. So, operator, if you could put him in the main line, we'll continue our call with Alabama head coach Nick Saban. Coach, can you hear me?
Hello.
Coach, good afternoon. Thanks for being with us. For questions for Coach Saban, if you could press 10, and Coach, while that's being done, would you mind commenting on your team throughout the regular season and as you prepare to face Georgia in Atlanta for the SEC Championship on Saturday?
Well, this is a tremendous opportunity for our team. They sort of created that for themselves by, making a tremendous amount of improvement, throughout the season. I'm very proud of, the transformation of our team from the beginning to the end, and the hard work and preparation that, our players have been focused on all year long. So, Georgia obviously is, to me, the best team in the country. They got a great offensive team. They run the ball, a great passing game. Quarterback's really, really good. They got great running backs. Their defense is one of the best defenses in the country and probably the best defense in the SEC. So there's a lot of challenges relative to playing a great football team, but the SEC, championship game is one of the best competitive venues I've ever been involved in, and I'm sure our team is excited about having the opportunity they created for themselves to play, one of the best teams in the country.
For questions, press 10. We'll begin with Charlie Potter of Bama Online.
Yeah, hey, Coach. It looked like Jase Mcclellan was on crutches after the game on Saturday. Do you have an update on where things stand with him?
He's, had a little foot injury all year long. He tweaked it in the game. So, he'll be day-to-day this week, but I can't tell you how much progress it'll make. Probably the next, 48 hours will tell us whether he'll, make the kind of progress he needs to be able to practice some and play in a game.
Next will be Mike Rodak of 24/7 Sports.
Just how have you seen this Georgia team change and evolve from the last time you played them 2 years ago?
Well, I haven't had a whole bunch of time to study them on both sides of the ball. I've seen them throughout the course of the year. I think their defense is, a lot like it's been in the past. They've got really good players. They've got a really good system, and they do a good job of executing. And, they get good tackling, good secondary people. Offensively, they're, running the ball very effectively, a lot of squeeze formations and, have a great play-action passing game, off of that to go with the running game. And obviously with the quarterback and receivers they have an excellent passing game as well. So I don't see tremendous difference, but they certainly do a great job of utilizing the players that they have.
Next, we'll go to John Senior, the Associated Press.
Yeah, Coach, we've talked a lot about how the progress of Jalen Milroe, but I'm wondering, he could have gone maybe a different way and taken the Texas game and then not playing against South Florida in a negative way and had a negative impact on him. He obviously went the opposite direction. How did he handle that, and how key was that to kind of winning over the coaching staff and teammates?
Well, I think his transformation at the quarterback position has helped us, transform our entire offensive team. I think the confidence that he's playing with, the confidence that our players have in him, I think we've done a pretty good job of trying to utilize the skill set that he has. And he's, learned that the most important thing in his position is distribute the ball. And, he's done a really, really good job of that. And I think that's really enhanced, the transformation of our offensive team to be much more effective and productive.
Next, David Pascal, the Chattanooga Times Free Press.
Hey, Nick, you've been obviously associated with this game since LSU knocked off Tennessee in 2001. That was early in the BCS. So I was curious, do you feel that has this game evolved in any way, or, it's gone through the BCS, the 4-team, and do you think it would have the same magnitude next year once it gets into a 12-team playoff? Will winning the SEC be as important next year as it is this year? This is obviously a huge one.
Well, I think winning the SEC is always a big thing. Ever since I've been, in this league, when you played in this game, when maybe the playoffs weren't the significant outcome that it is right now, it was still something special to be able to win the SEC. I mean, this is a great league. There's a lot of good teams. For your team to get in a position to play another great team in this game, and most of the games that we've been involved in involves great teams. So that means a lot to me. I think it means a lot to our players. And I think it'll mean a lot in the future, as well. And I don't think that whether there's 4 teams in the playoffs or 12 teams in the playoffs, I mean, this game has, some significance in terms of what might happen in the playoff, but that's not necessarily true all the time. But there is a significance to playing in the SEC Championship game.
Also wanted to ask about 2 years ago. You had a game at Auburn where you struggled for a lot of it before pulling it out and winning in 4 overtimes. Then you turned around the next week and played really well against Georgia. Are there lessons you can take from that week-to-week deal that you can use this week? Or I know you got some players who are in the program and a bunch of new ones.
Well, we didn't sort of channel all the passion and the great execution, in this last game, and I think that was very similar to the game you're referring to a couple years ago. So to get our players to sort of have good perspective on building on the things they did well and improving the things that we didn't do well, so that we can channel our passion into positive execution on a more consistent basis. I think was the focus a couple of years ago, and certainly going to be the focus in this game.
Thank you.
Next, we have Joe Menzer of the ESPN and the SEC Network.
Hey, Coach. When you first hired Kirby back in the day, did you have a sense that he would be a successful Division I head coach right away or soon into his career? And, having done much of what he has accomplished in his career already yourself, are you still kind of amazed at what he's been able to put together at Georgia?
Well, I think to answer that honestly, I hired Kirby. He was really, really young. So he was a position coach and did a great job as a position coach. And we elevated him to be the coordinator. And, I kind of knew that he had great leadership qualities, and that's why we made him a coordinator. When he was a coordinator, he did a great job of managing, that side of the ball, and I knew he'd be an outstanding head coach someday. But it's phenomenal what he's been able to accomplish at Georgia. I mean, to win as many games in a row and to win a couple championships and have another chance to, do it again a third time. I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's phenomenal to win however many games. What is it, 29? I don't even know for sure, but how many games they've won in a row. And we won 19 games in a row here twice, and I know how hard that was. So that and it's hard to sustain, and so he's done a phenomenal job of recruiting and developing players in the program, and I think the result bears that out.
Thank you.
Next is Mark Weiser of the Athens Banner-Herald.
Nick, I read where you said the games that haunt you the most are the lost championship games. Is that the case with the last time you played Georgia in Indianapolis, and if so, what in particular?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a great game, and I don't know, I think we're at 18-13 with, 10 or 11 minutes to go in the game, and they just outplayed us, tremendously in the last, 10, 11 minutes of the game. And, you always want to be able to finish. And, we lost on the last play of the game to Clemson way back when. I felt like I should have called timeout and didn't. And so there's always things that haunt you when you don't have success. And, they outplayed us the last 10, 11 minutes of the game. So, you always want your team to be able to finish.
Thank you.
Next is Chip Towers of the AJC.
Yeah, Nick, with a lot of Kirby Nick talk again, but obviously Kirby has accomplished an awful lot at Georgia, but he hasn't been able to beat you or Alabama in this game in particular. I know you guys see each other in the off season. I know you to be a competitive guy. I mean, is there any away from the field, away from the arena, ragging about that? Is it a piece of motivation for you and your staff to kind of hold sway in this game?
Well, they beat us in a national championship game the last time we played, so I don't know that one game, is more important than the other. And obviously, whoever plays the best in this game will have the best chance to win. And I don't know that, I have a lot of respect for Kirby, and we don't jostle about winning and losing and dog each other about it. I think I have respect for what he's been able to accomplish, and he did a great job for us when he was here, and I just appreciate him, a lot for the kind of person he is, the kind of coach he is, and the kind of job he's done.
Thanks.
Next is Tony Sakalas of Tide Illustrated.
Yeah, Coach, it looks like Auburn safety clapped to draw Seth Mcclellan into snapping the ball on the final drive. Did you see that? And what can you do to guard against a play like that in the future? You're going to have loud situations like that later on.
Well, first of all, the defense is not allowed to clap. If that's what you're using as a cadence. So, if what you say actually occurred, and I did see the film, then I'm not criticizing the officiating, but I'm saying that's supposed to be a penalty.
Is there a thought to going towards maybe a silent count in that situation, or are you just kind of relying on the official to make the call there?
Well, look, we've gone to the silent count before, and that has its issues too. So, I don't look. You're not allowed to clap on defense. So if you're using clap as your cadence, why would you change your cadence so that somebody does something they're not supposed to do on the other side of the ball? It doesn't make any sense to me. So we went silent at Texas A&M. We had 9 false starts. So, it didn't work too well.
Thank you.
Next is Palmer Toms of Dogs HQ.
Yeah, Coach, another Kirby question for you. Just watching from afar, what would you say the area that he's grown the most in has been, and how have you seen him implement what y'all do, in Athens?
Well, I can't answer the second part of your question because I don't see what they do every day. I do see the product they have on the field, and their players are well coached. They play with really good discipline. They're focused on doing their job. They do it the right way. So I assume that all those things are sort of coached into them, and the players are taught and go out and respect what they need to do to be able to create value and success for themselves. So, but I can't answer that because I'm not there on a day-to-day basis. I don't really know, how they do what they do, but I know the finished product is really, really good.
Next is AP Stedham of the AP and Kelly Show.
Coach, how does a talented tight end challenge a defense?
Well, I think that, first of all, tight ends are bigger people. And when they're very athletic and very good receivers, it's a little bit like basketball in a way. If you have a really talented big guy and he's athletic enough and you got to guard him with a smaller guy, that creates some advantages for the bigger guy. And if you cover him with a bigger guy and the bigger guy's not as athletic, that creates some problems too. So I think it's a mismatch issue that comes from having really, and then the guys are really good blockers. So if you have smaller guys guarding them, then you got a mismatch in a running game too.
Mm-hmm. Coach, and I want to ask you about Carson Beck. What have you seen from him this season that impresses you?
Well, I think he does a really, really good job of executing their offense. He doesn't make very many bad reads. He throws the ball in the right place. He's very accurate with the ball. He throws it on time. He understands their offense very, very well and, executes the play that's called and distributes the ball correctly, almost flawlessly.
Thank you.
Coach, it looks like that's going to wrap you up. Thank you for your time today and look forward to a great week.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That will conclude our